You know, beloved, sometimes the truth hides in the very thing people use to lie. It's strange how one moment can turn an entire life upside down. A single misunderstanding, a single accusation, and suddenly you become the villain in someone else's story. That's what happened to Vivian. Before I share her story, welcome once again to Unbroken Courage. I'm Amara, and I'd love to know, where are you watching from today? Drop it in the comments below and tell me, have you ever been blamed for something you didn't do? Because after you hear this story, you'll understand that the truth doesn't always shout. Sometimes it whispers from the most unexpected places. Now let's go back to that night. The Bennett mansion glowed with wealth, chandeliers glittering, polished marble floors reflecting the soft hum of classical music. It was Mrs. Bennett's 60th birthday celebration, and the house was full of family, business partners, and the kind of people who smiled with their mouths but judged with their eyes. Vivian, the daughter-in-law, had been married to Ethan Bennett for 4 years. She was gentle, polite, and from what most people said, too simple for such a powerful family. She didn't wear luxury to prove herself. She wore grace, and for some reason, that alone made her a target. That night, as the guests mingled, Mrs. Bennett called for everyone's attention. "Ladies and gentlemen," she said proudly, "tonight I will be wearing the Bennett Legacy necklace, a piece that's been in our family for generations." It was a stunning emerald pendant, surrounded by diamonds, resting in a glass case on the table beside her. Everyone gasped at its brilliance. But by the next morning, it was gone. Vivian was in the kitchen preparing tea when she heard shouting from the main hall. She ran out and saw Mrs. Bennett standing pale, trembling, pointing at the empty display case. "Where is it?" she screamed. "The necklace! Who took it?" The servant stood frozen. Ethan, her husband, came rushing down the stairs. "What's going on, Mother?" "It's gone, Ethan. The Bennett necklace is gone." Then, as if on cue, Mrs. Bennett's eyes turned sharply toward Vivian. "You were here last night after everyone left the hall, weren't you?" Vivian blinked, shocked. "Yes, but I was cleaning up the plates, not—" "Enough," Mrs. Bennett snapped. "Who else would have had access to it? You think I don't see how your family looks at our wealth? Maybe this was your way of claiming what you couldn't earn." The words stung like a slap. Ethan tried to speak up. "Mother, that's unfair." But his mother cut him off. "Don't defend her. You've been blind ever since you married beneath your station." Vivian felt the room spin. Every eye in the house was on her, whispering, measuring, assuming. Her sister-in-law, Celia, smirked slightly and said under her breath, "I always said she looked too quiet to be innocent." Later that day, the police were called. They searched her room, her drawers, even her handbags. One of the officers turned to Mrs. Bennett and said, "There's no sign of the necklace here, ma'am." Mrs. Bennett frowned. "Of course not. Thieves like her don't keep things in plain sight." Vivian's heart broke. "Thieves like me?" she whispered. That night, she packed her bag and stayed in the guest room, not wanting to sleep beside Ethan. She couldn't understand how everything fell apart so fast. But what she didn't know, what no one knew, was that the truth had been sitting quietly inside that necklace all along, waiting for the right time to speak. The next morning, Ethan found her by the window. "Viv, please don't leave." "I'll fix this," he said. She turned to him, tears in her eyes. "Ethan, it's not your mother I'm hurt by. It's you. You didn't even look at me when they accused me." He had no words, just silence. Days passed. Rumors spread through the town. People whispered that Vivian stole the necklace and sold it overseas. Mrs. Bennett stopped talking to her completely. Even the servants avoided eye contact. But on the 7th day, something unexpected happened. A courier delivered a small box to the mansion. Inside was a USB drive and a note. "For Mrs. Bennett, proof of the truth you ignored." At first, she thought it was a prank, but curiosity made her open the file. It was labeled Security Footage, Study Room 11:45 p.m. What played on the screen drained the color from her face. There, in grainy footage, was her own daughter, Celia, sneaking into the display room, taking the necklace, and whispering into her phone, "It's done? Tell him the deal's ready. The pendant has the chip." Mrs. Bennett froze. Her hands trembled as she realized the necklace wasn't just stolen. It was part of a secret, and that's when she remembered something. A few years ago, her late husband had commissioned a tech specialist to install a family safeguard, a small chip inside the pendant designed to record and track conversations in the mansion for security. He never told anyone else, except her, which meant Celia knew too. Vivian was sitting alone in the garden when Mrs. Bennet came rushing out. Her voice shook. "Vivian, I need to show you something." That moment would change everything. When Mrs. Bennet walked into the garden that morning, she looked nothing like the woman who had humiliated her daughter-in-law just days before. Her eyes were swollen, her hands trembling as she held the USB drive. "Vivian," she said, voice breaking, "I need you to come inside. Please." Vivian followed quietly, unsure what to expect. Inside, the grand living room, once full of accusation and whispers, now felt eerily silent. Mrs. Bennet turned the TV back on and pressed play. The screen flickered again to that grainy image, Celia stealing the necklace. But this time, Mrs. Bennet let the footage run longer, and what came next would shake the entire family to its core. Celia placed the necklace into a velvet bag and whispered to a man on the phone, "Don't forget what you promised. Once the transfer clears, I'll send the chip. Mom doesn't need to know it's been recording her for years." Vivian gasped. "Recording her?" Mrs. Bennet nodded slowly. "My husband, before he died, told me about that chip. It was meant to protect us, but somehow Celia turned it into a weapon." The video continued. Celia's voice filled the room, smooth and calculating. "When I'm in charge of the estate, everything changes. Vivian will be gone. She doesn't deserve this family's name." Mrs. Bennet covered her mouth. Ethan, who had just walked in, stood frozen behind them. "That's my sister," he whispered. Vivian's tears fell silently, not from anger this time, but relief. For the first time, she realized she didn't have to prove her innocence anymore. The truth had done it for her. Later that evening, Mrs. Bennet called for a family meeting. Everyone gathered: Ethan, Celia, the uncles, even the household staff. The tension was thick. Mrs. Bennet stood at the center, holding the remote. "I've called you all here because I've been living blind. I accused an innocent woman, and tonight you will all see what pride does to a family." She pressed play again. The room filled with Celia's voice, but this time, the recording inside the necklace took over. A clear, crisp audio captured private conversations between Celia and a man named Victor, the family accountant. "Victor, once your mother hands over the accounts, we'll reroute the funds through the foundation. She'll never know. And Vivian? She'll be gone by then. I've already planted the story that she stole the necklace." Gasps filled the room. The uncles looked horrified. Ethan stared at his sister in disbelief. Mrs. Bennet's knees almost gave way. "Celia, how could you?" she whispered. Celia's face turned pale. I didn't mean for it to go that far." Vivian stepped forward, calm but firm. "You didn't just hurt me. You destroyed your mother's trust. You stained your father's memory." Celia broke down sobbing, but no one rushed to comfort her. The scandal spread quickly. By the next week, newspapers hinted at financial fraud inside one of the region's most respected families. Victor was arrested after investigators discovered he had siphoned company money with Celia's help. And Mrs. Bennet? She publicly apologized to Vivian, not with a press release, but with action. At a family dinner, she stood up, removed her diamond brooch, and pinned it onto Vivian's dress. "This family once lost its honor because we trusted the loudest voices. Today, I restore that honor by recognizing the quietest, the one who never fought to be right, but simply was." Tears rolled down Ethan's face as he whispered to his wife, "I'm so sorry." Vivian smiled faintly and said, "It's okay, the truth always comes home." Months later, after the dust settled, Mrs. Bennet invited Vivian for tea in the garden, the same spot where everything had begun. She handed Vivian a small velvet pouch. "It's the necklace," she said softly. "Repaired, but still holding its secret." Vivian hesitated. "I don't want it." Mrs. Bennet shook her head. "It's not for wearing. It's a reminder. Keep it as proof that truth doesn't need defending. It just needs time." Vivian smiled. "Thank you, Mother." When she finished telling me her story, I sat back quietly. "Vivian," I said, "the necklace didn't just record lies. It revealed hearts, theirs and yours." She nodded. "Yes, Amara. Sometimes what exposes evil isn't revenge, it's patience. Beloved, maybe today you're watching this, and you've been falsely accused. You've been misunderstood, blamed, or painted as something you're not. Let me remind you, truth may hide for a while, but it never dies. Even when people try to bury it under lies, it will find a way to speak, through evidence, through time, through peace that cannot be faked. And when it does, it won't just clear your name. It will teach everyone who doubted you that divine justice doesn't need an announcement. So if this story touched you, beloved, drop a comment below and tell me where you're watching from. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Unbroken Courage for more powerful, true life stories. Because here, we believe the truth will always find its voice, even if it has to speak through a necklace.